It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday evening to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers and D-backs, they've already met each other 15 times. The Dodgers have won 11 of the 15, and as the visiting team, the Dodgers have won 7 of 9. That includes 2 games played in Sydney, Australia, which reminds us the last time Clayton Kershaw and Wade Miley faced each other, the Dodgers beat Miley and the D-backs in Sydney 3-1. Clayton Kershaw might very well be the first pitcher in the league to win 16. He goes to the mound with a record of 15-3. Adam Wainwright had a shot today, but he lost when Pittsburgh beat the Cardinals. So Clayton, by the way, had his worst game in his career here at Chase Field. Remember, he gave up 7 runs in less than 2 innings. That was the game the Dodgers lost, 18-7. However, after that game on the road, Clayton Kershaw's record this year, 8 wins, no losses, and a minuscule ERA of less than 1. Opposing him will be left-hander Wade Miley. He is 7-9. He is going against the Dodgers 5 times this year. The last time that happened, Jason Schmidt back in 1998 for the Giants. So it's the Dodgers and the D-backs. Good ball game coming up, and a whole lot more right after this.
Arizona as fans make their way into Chase Field to catch Game 2 of a very quick two-game set between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside Chase Field. I'm Alana Rizzo. A quick update for you on third baseman Juan Uribe, who was participating in baseball activities earlier today with the Dodgers medical staff. Some base running from first to third. He was also hitting against his friend Hyunjin Ryu in Ryu's simulated game. Don Mattingly saying the third baseman is making progress, although no official word when he's going to come off the disabled list. Better news for Hyunjin Ryu, who did throw that simulated game. He threw 10 pitches in 2 different innings. Don Mattingly saying that they're going to wait and see how Ryu comes out of it. He is eligible to come off of the disabled list on Friday. It will be more than likely that he'll come off on either Sunday or Monday to be the starter for the Dodgers. Basically what the matchup is and what works better for the team. It's on the shoulders of Clayton Kershaw tonight, however, looking to atone his last outing against the Diamondbacks here at Chase Field, going for the league-leading 16th win of the season. Vince Scully on the call after the break.
Night to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to the great indoors of Phoenix, Arizona, and another chance to see about Clayton Kershaw and if he will add to his laurels. He will start tonight having won 7 straight. He is 8-0 on the road since the worst game of his young career, when he gave up 7 runs and 6 hits in less than 2 innings here. In fact, first glance in his career against Arizona, they've given him sub-bad moments, 9-7. He is 2-1 against them this year. And of course, since that loss, he has been on a roll, and he is 15-3 with a chance to be the first 16-game winner in the National League. Don Mattingly's lineup trying to back him up against left-hander Wade Miley, and so the names on his card. Nothing new with D. Gordon leading off at second base. Then you have Yasiel Puig in center field. Hitting third for only the 3rd time this year, Matt Kemp moves up. Hanley Ramirez will be at shortstop. Adrian Gonzalez had some tightness in his back. Resting today. Tomorrow's an off day, so he won't have to play until Friday night, and they figure he'll be fine. Following Ramirez, Scott Van Slyke, who has certainly worn out left-hander Wade Miley. Then Justin Turner at first base. In his career, he's played first 27 games and 18 starts. He also played 15 games with 9 starts for the Mets last year. A.J. Ellis, as usual, with Kershaw pitching. A.J. behind the plate. Miguel Rojas will take over at third since Turner is playing first. And, of course, Clayton Kershaw. On the mound, Wade Miley. Miley was the first Arizona rookie to make the All-Star squad back in 2012. The left-hander out of Hammond, Louisiana, went to Southeast Louisiana University, and it'll be D. Gordon to start it off. So the left-hander deals, fastball just missing off the plate. 1 ball and no strikes. Gordon putting up some great numbers, hitting .294, 2 home runs, 29 runs batted in. And as you know, he's been a terror on the base paths. He has 57 stolen bases, and he hasn't stopped there. Gordon also has 18 doubles and 12 triples. So D. Gordon trying to start a fire here. The temperature outside 98, inside 77, and Gordon takes a strike. And the count 2 balls and 1 strike. The roof is closed, so it's a lovely evening here in Phoenix, especially indoors. Miley works from the third base side of the rubber. The corners are up, defending against the bunt. Full swing and a miss by Gordon, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. D in his leadoff role has a modest 6-game hitting streak. Well, what's amazing, during the streak, he's hit .458. He's just been tearing them up. So Gordon waiting, Miley ready, back with a fastball low, and that runs the count all the way. So 3-2 to Gordon. Miley well put together, a 6-footer, but a very stocky 220. He does allow home runs. We can talk more about his game in a moment. 3-2 pitch is strike 3 call. Gordon just backs away and heads for the dugout. So 1 away here in the first inning, and the batter will be Yasiel Puig. Take another look as Gordon waits at the plate, and the pitch right about at the knees as it crossed the plate, and down he goes. Yasiel Puig has to fight the temptation to press. He is struggling. He is 0 for his last 15 at bats, so he's hitting .303. Miley delivers, fastball away, ball 1. 1-0 to count. For Yasiel Puig going up against Wade Miley, that might be the answer. He's 5 for 14 with a home run against Wade. Miley, by the way, has allowed 9 home runs to the Dodgers. Pitch in for a strike, and the count 1-1. The fellow who really wears him out is Scott Van Slyke. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. Miley with a record of 7-9. The left-hander's fastball is low, so he's determined to stay down there around the knees, and he struck out Gordon with a pitch right at the knees. 2-1 the count to Yasiel Puig. 1 away, first inning. We're just starting, and the left-hander Miley's next pitch, fastball off the plate, and Puig was fooled, started his swing, tried to hold up, and wound up with a strike, and the count 2-2. So that's important. Instead of 3-1, he's up there now, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Miley ready, back he comes, this time inside. So Puig went after the pitch away that was out of the zone, held off on the pitch inside. So 2 consecutive batters now. Miley goes 3-2. Worked out well for him against Gordon, and the pitch to Puig is low and inside, ball 4. So Yasiel draws the walk. Take a look at Arizona defensively behind Miley. Jordan Pacheco at first, then you have Hill, Gregorius, and Pennington. Trumbo, Inciarte, and Marte. Gosowich behind the plate, and Wade Miley on the mound. Matt Kemp will be coming up. Matt Kemp hit that home run to get started last night. He has a little 4-game hitting streak. Since the All-Star break, Kemp hitting .295, so that's gotten his average up to .276. Throw to first, Puig back on the bag. For Matt Kemp, since the All-Star break, 7 doubles, a triple, 8 home runs, and 26 runs batted in. That's in 36 games. He's been red hot. Miley ready and delivers, fastball down and away, ball 1. Matt Kemp hitting .286 against Miley, and he has 2 home runs against Wade. Miley checking. By the way, Miley is set, looks over at first, comes back, and it's swung on and missed. Miley has allowed 22 home runs, so he's certainly vulnerable in that score. A lot of the home runs, 7 of them, on the first pitch. He has also given up a lot of runs at home. Here's the 1-1 pitch coming up. Miley delivers, breaking ball in the dirt, blocked nicely by Gosowicz. Holding on at first is Puig. 2-1 the count. Dodgers beating up the Western Division. They're not only 35-19. Should they win tonight, they will have won 9 straight series against Western Division teams. 2-1 the count. Mattingly and his top aide Tim Wallach looking on. The 2-1 pitch. Matt swings, doesn't get it, and the count 2-2. Miley comes into the game with 157 strikeouts, though he got Gordon. That bumps it up to 158. Wade, 28 years old come November, and his 2-2 pitch, fastball in the dirt. Nice pick by Gosowicz. New ball put in play, and holding on at first, Yasiel Puig. Hitting cleanup tonight, Hanley Ramirez waiting on deck. So Gosowicz settles back into a crouch. Hanley waits, and again it's another 3-2 count. That's 3 straight hitters, 3-2. Miley out of his stretch, looks at first, goes over there. Puig jumps back on the bag. Yasiel Puig hasn't been on base enough lately to do a lot of stealing. He has stolen 8, but he's been caught 7 times. 1 out, first inning, no score, just starting, and the 3-2 pitch instead, another throw to first. Right-hand hitters have really worn him out this year. 132 hits against him by right-handers, and he's also walked 44. So he is very gingerly pitching, and the Dodgers have stacked the lineup with right-hand batters, with the exception of Gordon and Kershaw. 3-2 with 1 out. We'll see what Puig does. He doesn't go, and the pitch fouled away. In fact, Puig was totally intimidated on the pitch to Matt Kemp. Yasiel was running back to the bag. So Puig, somewhat with an embarrassment, waved something over to Davey Lopes. But he was really fooled. 3-2 the count to Matt Kemp. He wasn't going, was Puig. We'll see about this time. Miley just stares at him. Left-handed to the plate, off speed, swung on and missed. So down goes Matt Kemp. 2 strikeouts in the inning, and the batter will be Hanley Ramirez. So last night, Matt Kemp hit a 2-run home run. He was way out in front of a pitch that might have been off the plate. So he's gone 3-2 to Gordon, struck him out. 3-2 to Puig and walked him. 3-2 to Kemp and struck him out. And now let's see about Hanley Ramirez. Ramirez hitting .273, 12 home runs, 58 runs batted in. Last night he was 1 for 4. So another right-hand batter as Miley comes with a fastball low, ball 1. The crew chief, the veteran, Jerry Davis, is behind the plate. Jerry's been calling balls and strikes now for 31 years. Done a lot of World Series. He's done 115 postseason games. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Miley ready, comes right back. Ground ball slowly to third. Pennington up with it. Throw to first on the money, and that's the inning. No runs, no hits. A man left on the walk to Puig. And at the end of half an inning, Dodgers nothing, and it's time for Clayton Kershaw. first inning, leaving Puig at first base. Now let's take a look at Kirk Gibson's lineup. It'll be Ender Inciarte, the center fielder. Cliff Pennington, normally a shortstop, at third base. Aaron Hill at second. Mark Trumbo, who played first base last night, is back in left field tonight. Alfredo Marte, who was in left field last night, moves over to right field tonight. Jordan Pacheco gets a start at first base. Tuffy Gosowicz, who has done reasonably well against Kershaw, 3 for 4, earns a shot with the left-hander Miguel Montero sitting down. Didi Gregorius, the shortstop. Wade Miley, the pitcher. And on the mound, Clayton Kershaw. Earlier today, Pittsburgh beat the Cardinals 3-1. Adam Wainwright lost, so he did not win his 16th. So Clayton has a shot now to be the first 16-game winner in the league. As we mentioned, he is 2-1, and the left-hander ready, and his first pitch is up and in for ball one as Inciarte bluffed running and had the corners on the move. Inciarte, among other things, very impressive with his arm. He has 9 assists. The 1-0 pitch on the way, and that's high, ball 2, 2-0 the count. Inciarte was involved in that highly critical play last night. Carl Crawford tagged out by an empty glove. And the next one is high, so Kershaw opens up 3-0. Since that tough game where he had 7 runs against him in less than 2 innings, he has certainly turned him around. He's gone 8-0 on the road, and he has a 7-game winning streak. And the breaking ball is down and away, so Kershaw opens up by giving a walk to Inciarte, and the batter will be Cliff Pennington. Inciarte, the rookie last night, not only had 2 hits, he also had 2 stolen bases. So we'll see whether they try to run him against Kershaw. And if you've been following the Dodgers, you know that Kershaw is very, very effective in shutting down the running game. So Clayton out of a stretch, looks over at Inciarte, and the first pitch of the right-hand hitter Pennington in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Cliff's normally a shortstop, originally a first-round pick by the Oakland A's out of Texas A&M, an Aggie who lives in Corpus Christi. Penny, as they call him, waits, and the strike one pitch coming up. Cliff bent slightly at the knees and waist, shows bunt, pulls the bat back in on the hands, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Pennington, 5'10", 210, turned 30 middle of June. Had some fine years with the A's and came over to the Diamondbacks last year. Inciarte at first, nobody out. We'll see if they try to run him at all. Out of a stretch goes Clayton, looks at him and decides he better pay him a visit. Inciarte diving back to the bag. Arizona, not really a running ball club. They have 67 stolen bases. I think Gibby prefers to do it the better way. Of course, you look at D. Gordon all by himself, he has 57. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Kershaw set, ready to the plate, and the little breaking ball in for a strike, 1-2. Hitting after Pennington and the veteran second baseman Aaron Hill. The Giants will be playing in about 20 minutes. The Rockies will send Franklin Morales to the mound with a record of 5-7. The Giants with Tim Hudson 9-9. Now the 1-2 pitch on the way to Cliff Pennington. Kershaw very deliberate, fastball fouled away. Arizona struggling, and of course what happened to them was losing Paul Goldschmidt, their big first baseman, and that wrecked the offensive plans of Kirk Gibson. They're hitting less than .226 in the month of August. Goldschmidt is in the dugout, but he was hit by the pitch August 1, and that finished Arizona's offense, at least up to the moment. 1-2 pitch on the way is swung on and fouled back, and the count remains 1-2. So with their offense smothered, Arizona has lost 16 of 23 games this month. Of course, they're playing a lot of kids, trying to make their plans for the future. But to see Goldschmidt left hand heavily in a cast, it was a severe blow to the Diamondbacks. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Breaking ball, big overhand, slow curve, and down goes Pennington. We'll take a look with the Dodgers with the leather. Remember, we told you Justin Turner over there at first base, 27 times and 18 starts at first. Then you have Gordon, Ramirez, and Rojas, Van Slyke, Puig, and Kemp. Ellis handling Kershaw. So 1 out. Aaron Hill coming up, and a throw to first, not in time. Aaron Hill hitting .313, 5 for 16 against Kershaw. Clayton out of his stretch, looks over at first, now to the plate, and misses inside under the hands, ball 1. Remember, the Giants won last night. Madison Bumgarner, pitching a one-hitter, had a perfect 7 innings. They're 11-24 at home, are the Giants, since beginning the year, 22-9. So we'll keep track of that one. 1 ball and no strikes to Aaron Hill. Back comes Kershaw, and a fly ball to left field, very playable. Van Slyke backs up a little bit, makes the catch, but he's still on the grass. And with 2 down, Mark Trumbo coming up. Then looking at Arizona against Kershaw, Tuffy Gosowicz, the catcher, is 3 for 4. Aaron Hill was .313, and that's really it. So 2 down, first inning. Inciarte at first. We'll see now if he's going to test Kershaw's move as Big Trumbo checks in. Trumbo, right-hand hitter, first baseman, left fielder. 8 home runs. Swings, fouls the first pitch off to the right upstairs. No balls and 1 strike to Mark. Trumbo, born in Anaheim, lives in Orange, went to Villa Park High School, and was drafted in the 18th round by the Angels back in 2004. Boy, he had a monstrous year in the minor leagues before coming up, and then did pretty well in the big leagues for the Angels. Strike 1 pitch to Mark, swung on and missed, fastball, and the count 0-2. At Salt Lake City, Trumbo had 36 home runs and 122 RBIs, and when he came up with the Angels, he had 29 home runs, 32 home runs, and 34 home runs. But he missed a good portion of the year with a fractured foot. No balls and 2 strikes. They count to Mark Trumbo. Kershaw decides to go to first. Nice pick there by Justin Turner. He had to reach down on a low throw right about at the rib cage of Inciarte. Diamondbacks struggling. They have lost 8 of the last 10. Dodgers trying to beat them again if they can. Kershaw ready. And the strike 2 pitch. There goes Inciarte. The pitch outside. The throw down. He's in there. We talked about Clayton Kershaw and the fact that he's done a tremendous job. I believe that might very well be the first stolen base against Clayton this year. We'll have to look it up. But we do know going into the year, he was about 50%. 46 succeeded and 42 failed. But Inciarte has a lot of ability and steals the base, Kershaw or no. 1 ball and 2 strikes. They count to Mark Trumbo. Clayton hands together now to that exaggerated stretch. 1-2 pitch on the way, and it's low and away, ball 2. 2-2. So Inciarte, the young center fielder, he's now 12 out of 14, and to be exact, because memory of course plays a big trick, but to be exact and correct, that would be the 4th stolen base against Kershaw this year. So deuce is wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Runner at second. No score in the first. Kershaw ready, and the 2-2 pitch coming up. Swung on and missed. A slider down. Ellis picks it up, throws to first, and that'll do it for Trumbo. So Kershaw strikes out 2. Arizona leads a man, and at the end of an inning, no score. score in the ball game. Scott Van Slyke, with a 6-game hitting streak, has 4 home runs in his career against Miley. Takes a fastball high, ball 1. He started off hitting a home run to right field in the cricket ground in Sydney, Australia against Miley. He also hit one at Dodger Stadium, and he hit one here as well. Scotty takes a strike. In fact, check me, make it 2 balls and no strikes. Miley from the first base side now moving a little bit. Left-hander, a long look in to Gosowicz. Back he comes in for a strike, and the count 2-1. So Van Slyke trying to get the Dodgers off in the right direction. The 2-1 pitch misses inside. 3-1 the count. 91-mile-an-hour fastball. Miley, in his last time out Thursday, did not allow a run in 6 2/3 innings against Washington. Looked like an off-speed pitch that time, swung on and missed, and the count 3-2. Nevertheless, he didn't factor in a decision. Diamondbacks lost that game to Washington 1-0. Wade ready, 3-2 pitch, fastball, a one-hopper, a diving stop by Hill, gets up and throws him out. Aaron Hill, a beauty on a one-hopper heading towards center field. So Van Slyke robbed of a hit by Aaron Hill, and we have 1 down here in the 2nd inning. Head first dive, backhanded the hopper, and then scrambled to his feet to throw Scotty out. Big play by Hill, who's accustomed to making plenty of them. And with 1 down, the batter is Justin Turner. So Van Slyke robbed of a hit. Andre Ethier giving him, I'm sure, some encouraging words. And the pitch is low. 1 ball and no strikes to Justin Turner. Having a fabulous year. Hitting .316. Takes one in there. And a 1 ball, 1 strike count. Turner has been Mr. Clutch, and especially with 2 strikes. Remarkable what he's done with 2 strikes. 1-1 pitch, low and inside, ball 2-1. Turner waiting. Miley works quickly. He comes right back away. Ball 3. 3-1 the count. Wade just gets the ball, looks in, gets a sign, and he's ready. He's taking a long look at Gosowicz. 3-1 pitch is a fastball inside. So Turner draws the walk. 2nd one given up by Miley. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis. Looking at A.J.'s work, going head-to-head with Wade Miley. He's hitting .267 against him. No home runs. No score. Top of the 2nd inning. 1 away. Dodgers leading the Giants by 5, and the Giants will get underway in about 10 minutes. Miley very deliberate now. Looks over at Turner. Comes to A.J. and gets it in for a strike. And the count 0-1. Miley can get a lot of double plays. Earlier this year, he had the Giants hit into 4 ground ball double plays. Strike 1 pitch Ellis takes, and that's inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Last year, Miley, his percentage of ground balls 67%. Hyun-Jin Ryu 65. A.J. Burnett, his percentage 72%. Zach Greinke 62. 1-1 pitch swung on, ground ball to the hole, smothered and missed by both the 3rd baseman and the shortstop. So both Pennington and Gregorius went down, and neither man could make the play. Ellis gets a base hit. Turner moves to 2nd, and of course that play by Aaron Hill gets bigger and bigger. So it looked like a bowling alley on the left side. Down goes Pennington, down goes Gregorius, and the ball finds its way into left field. So 2 on, 1 out, and Miguel Rojas checking in, playing 3rd base tonight. If you missed the opening remarks, left-handed going, and Adrian Gonzalez complaining of tightness in his back. So Don Mattingly figured He doesn't play tonight. Tomorrow is an off day. It's almost like 3 days off. He didn't have to play till Friday night. Rojas, ground ball to short. Gregorius goes to second, to first, not in time. Over to third goes Turner. So Rojas just does avoid the double play. Ellis is erased, and over to third goes Turner. Clayton Kershaw, not a bad hitter for a pitcher. Clayton trying to help his own cause now. Runners at first and third, 2 out. Clayton has a total of 8 hits, 2 runs batted in, strikes out about a third of the time, which makes him a pretty good hitter for a pitcher. And the first pitch is instead a throw to first. Rojas back on the bag. No score. Top of the second inning, 2 down. Dodgers and D-backs. When the Dodgers come home after San Diego, they'll play Washington, Arizona again. Kershaw has been pretty effective. This time a little chopper. It'll be fielded at first base by Pacheco, taken to the bag, and that's the inning. No runs a hit, but the big play, the diving stop and throw on the ball hit by Van Slyke. Aaron Hill saved the D-backs in the second, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Bottom of the second inning. The books are full of great numbers about Clayton Kershaw, and he deserves all of them, but he is human, and Chase Field is one of the tough ballparks for him. His earned run average in Coors, 4.5. Maybe the altitude has a lot to do with that. Chase Field, the D-backs have just beaten up on him a couple of times. Then you have Busch Stadium in St. Louis and Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. All 4, of course, are pretty well known as hitters' parks. So in the second, here he goes. 0-5 in his last starts here at Chase. He'll be facing Alfredo Marte, Jordan Pacheco, and then Gosowicz, the young catcher who's 3 for 4 against him. Alfredo Marte from Santo Domingo. Right-hand hitter, swings, lifts one off first. Turner coming over near the seats, right at the seats, and makes the catch for the out. So Justin Turner gets a round of applause, making a good play on that high foul ball, and 1 away. Turner took 1 look, then another, still had just enough room, and made the catch. Good play. So 1 away, and Jordan Pacheco coming up. He's from Albuquerque, New Mexico, went to the University of New Mexico. Jordy hitting .224, 10 runs batted in. Right-hand batter, looks at a strike. Pacheco can play anywhere on the infield. He can certainly catch. He's playing first base tonight, and he's also pretty good stint at third base. Pacheco takes another pitch, and he's in a hole. No balls and 2 strikes. Pacheco originally signed by the Rockies, and Clayton Kershaw trying to put him away. No balls and 2 strikes. Kershaw ready, and his next pitch hits home plate and bounces away. No swing, otherwise there would have been a lot of action around home plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes to count. Pacheco is claimed by the Diamondbacks off waivers from the Rockies. Jim Tracy was high on his ability as a hitter. Pacheco waiting. And Kershaw comes after him 1-2, and he's low. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Pacheco, 28 years old, came up to the Rockies in 2011, stayed with them through 12, and found himself leaving the Rockies this year and coming over to Arizona. Now the 2-2 pitch on the way. Pacheco pops it up on the left side. Hanley Ramirez waiting, one hands it for the out, and we have 2 down here in the second inning. No score in the ball game. I was thinking tonight, and I guess it's because we're in Arizona and Kershaw's going to pitch, and you read a great deal about Clayton and what he has done. I mean, not only does Clayton have the best strikeout ratio per 9 innings, he has the best walk ratio as well. There's only one man who ever did that for a full year, the great Walter Johnson. Kershaw deals, fastball strike, 0-1. And I started to think about just some of the great pitchers that I've been able to see, blessed to be able to see them. And being here in Arizona, you had to think of Randy Johnson. Strike 1 pitch on the way is taken low. Randy, for instance, won 303 games in 22 years. In 8 years in Arizona, he led the league in strikeouts 5 times. He won 5 Cy Young Awards, 4 of them here. He had 300 or more strikeouts 4 times. And of course, he was the leader. He was the man who gave the D-backs the championship, and he won 21 games that year. Boy, we have seen a few. Here's the 2-1 pitch on the way. Kershaw delivers, chopper foul outside of third. The closing thought on Randy Johnson, in case you wonder, no, he is not in the Hall of Fame, not yet. He wasn't eligible. He was pitching in 2009. He will be eligible next year, and you have to believe he'll be a cinch. And of course, the big thing by Randy Johnson, not to compare him with Kershaw, you just hope and pray that Clayton can have that kind of a year. Randy pitched 22 years. Clayton Kershaw came up in 2008. All right, 2-2 the count now. Gosowicz waiting. Tuffy, right-hand hitter, hits a hopper, speared by Ramirez. He gets up, throws to first in time. Nice play by Hanley. He had to leave his feet to get his glove on the ball, but got up and nailed Gosowicz. So down go the D-backs. We can take another look on TV as Hanley gets up and gets it over in time. So at the end of 2 innings, no score. the third inning. To commemorate the achievements of Josh Beckett and Clayton Kershaw, there'll be a pin giveaway for the first 40,000 fans Monday the 1st and September 22nd, presented by 76. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/no-hitter. Don't forget, Monday the 1st, that'll be the Dodgers and the Washington Nationals, and the 22nd, it will be the Giants and Dodgers. Third inning, no score. Top of the order, D. Gordon, Yasiel Puig, and Matt Kemp. Dodgers on a roll. 5 of the last 6 victories on the road. As we mentioned earlier, they've won 8 straight road series against Western Division teams, trying to make it 9 tonight. Miley ready. First pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Miley pitched very well against the Dodgers in Sydney. Tough ball game. Kershaw beat him, but it was 3-1. Tough game all the way. Wade, strike one pitch is low. 1 ball and 1 strike. One of Miley's problems, he is not a stopper. He's lost 6 games following an Arizona loss. The 1-1 pitch is bunted. Out to get it is Gosowicz. Throws too late, and the ball gets away from Pacheco anyway. Just dribbles on the grass and picked up by Aaron Hill. It'll be a base hit for Gordon, which means he now has hit safely in 7 straight. So D. Gordon drops one down on the dirt and then trickle out on the grass up along first base. Gosowicz a low throw, and Pacheco couldn't pick it, trying to backhand it out of the dirt. So the Dodgers have Gordon aboard. That usually means fireworks. Remember, he has stolen 57, but he'll be challenged by Miley staring at him as Yasiel Puig checks in. Yasiel is not pressing as far as swinging at bad balls. He's walked 5 times in the last 4 games, including tonight. Throw to first. Gordon back on the bag. Gordon usually aided and abetted by Davy Lopes as D takes the lead, and Puig back up to the plate. Yasiel waiting. Miley out of a stretch. Comes to the hitter at his feet. 1 ball and no strikes. Dodgers and D-backs, no score. Top of the 3rd. Dodgers heading for San Diego after the game. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way to Puig. Miley set. There goes Gordon. The pitch inside. Good throw down. He is safe. Gosowicz got rid of it in a hurry. A great throw, and Gordon was just able to elude the tag. Boy, it's amazing when you can still steal a base on what appeared to be a great throw by the catcher. Hill came down with it a hair late. So Gordon picks up his 58th stolen base. Straight steal. There was no thought of a hit and run. Gosowicz thought he had a good play, and he really did make a good one because he had a bad pitch to handle. It was down and at Puig's feet. So 58 stolen bases and a 2-0 count on Yasiel Puig. So Puig trying to pick him up. With Gordon's steal, the Dodgers have now stolen 120. And the 2-0 pitch is taken low, ball 3. I'm just wondering now, 3-0. Mattingly, a former ball player himself, and he knows that Puig is in a struggle, 0 for 15. I wonder if he'll green light him, and we'll wonder if Puig swings. For Miley, struggling a little bit. He's had 6 3-ball counts on the first 11 batters. Remember, he went 3-2 on the very first 3 batters in the first inning. Okay, 3-0 pitch. And Puig takes down and away, ball 4. So Miley is fighting his control. He has walked 3, and we're only in the 3rd inning. Mike Harkey, the pitching coach, a little puzzled, looking out at Miley. Miley has walked 61, and he has struck out 159. So he throws hard. And here's Matt Kemp. 2 on, nobody out, 3rd inning. Matt with big numbers, 16 home runs, 61 runs batted in, hitting a very solid .276. He did strike out in the 1st inning. Only the 3rd time this year Matt is hitting 3rd. A bluff by Miley, and that sends Gordon back on his hands and knees. So a base hit on a bunt, stolen base and a walk, and the first pitch to Matt Kemp. Miley deals and finds the inside corner, took a lot off that pitch and threw it nicely for a strike. Miley, fastball, slider, curve, cutter, and a change. No balls and 1 strike to Matt Kemp. The next pitch golfed at and missed. So Kemp, who struck out in the 1st inning, in a hole now. No balls and 2 strikes. Miley has been hit pretty hard this year with men in scoring position. In fact, with men in scoring position, he's given up 22 home runs. Strike 2 pitch is lifted to deep right center field. That's going to slice away to the 413 mark. Gordon will score. Puig is on his way. Kemp on his way to 3rd, and he's going to be nailed there, going in head first, but not before the Dodgers put 2 on the board. Aaron Hill made a good relay, and Matt Kemp is nailed at 3rd. That ball wound up near the 413 mark, with Inciarte racing over to try and get it back to the infield. Worth taking another look. Kemp unable to extend his arms, and yet he's so strong. He hit it that far away. And then Inciarte fired to the infield, and there was Hill ready to fire to 3rd, and it was in plenty of time to get Matt Kemp. So Kemp doubles to left center, drives in 2. He is cut down 8-4-5. And the Dodgers enjoy a 2-0 lead. And that young man, Inciarte, out there in center field, we talked about him earlier. He now has 10 assists as Hanley Ramirez swings and misses. He is tied for first as Inciarte with, of all people, Yasiel Puig. Good young player. However, Dodgers have 2 to lead 2-0 as they try to beat Arizona yet again. The strike 2 pitch down at Hanley's feet. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So a bunt single, a stolen base, and a walk, and the stage was set. And Matt Kemp, now with 63 runs batted in, puts the Dodgers on the board. For Kemp, it was also his 29th double. And the 1-2 pitch, bad swing by Hanley, fooled on the pitch, and strikes out. Hanley kind of disgusted with himself for going after that. It was a bad hack as well as a bad pitch. So 2 out. That would be the 3rd strikeout for Wade Miley. And here's trouble for him. Scott Van Slyke robbed of a hit on a diving play, and he hits one a mile high to left field. Trumbo goes back to the wall. Gone. That is the 5th home run and the 4th he's hit against Miley this year. Scott Van Slyke gives the Dodgers a 3-0 lead. Every now and then you wonder if anybody's going to hit the roof. And when that ball left the bat, you thought that might have a chance. Van Slyke with his 10th home run, and they will pound him to pieces in the dugout. I don't see the bubble machine working, however. Must have run out of soap. But the Dodgers leading 3-0, and the batter now is Justin Turner. Miley delivers, fastball strike. 0-1 the count. Van Slyke with a total of 19 home runs in his career, and 5 of them has been hit against Wade Miley, and 4 of them have been hit against him this year, starting in Sydney, Australia. He's hit 2 here, 1 at Dodger Stadium and 1 at the cricket ground. The 1-1 pitch is in there. 1-2 to Justin Turner. So Rojas, Van Slyke exchange words. Happiness down in the Dodger dugout. And the 1-2 pitch coming up to Turner, foul back. So the Dodgers last night posted a half a dozen in the 4th inning. That had to be bad news in San Francisco. And now they get the word up there at AT&T Park. The Dodgers have just scored 3 here in the 3rd inning. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Ground foul outside of 3rd. Turner, we mentioned earlier, with 2 strikes was hitting .409 this year. I mean, that's incredible. 2 strikes, the hitter is usually at the pitcher's mercy, but somehow or other he has turned all those numbers around. 3-0 Dodgers in the 3rd. Miley into the windup, and the 1-2 pitch, fastball outside corner, strike 3 call. 4 strikeouts for Miley with 3 runs for the Dodgers. A big double by Kemp that meant 2, and a monstrously high fly ball home run by Scott Van Slyke. Trumbo tried, couldn't get it. And at the end of 2.5, it's 3-0 Dodgers. Van Slyke homers after Kemp was out at 3rd, and the Dodgers take a 3-0 lead in the bottom of the 3rd inning. So for Wade Miley, Scott Van Slyke continues to be an absolute nightmare, and Miley will be the number 2 hitter here in the bottom of the 3rd. Didi Gregorius will start it off. Didi's from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. His family eventually moved over to Curaçao. Didi, 24 years old, was originally drafted by the Reds and takes a strike, left-handed. So Clayton Kershaw staked to that 3-0 lead here in the 3rd. Now the strike 1 pitch on the way. Breaking ball swung on and missed, the slider. When he's throwing the slider and his fastball, and then every now and then throws that big rainbow curveball, really tough to figure out Clayton Kershaw. Strike 2 pitch on the way, fastball low. 1-2. So Didi Gregorius, then Wade Miley, in the top of the order, Inciarte. Clayton turns on the rubber, and his 1-2 pitch is a little low. good fastball, but just below the knees. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Clayton has made 32 pitches so far, and we're in the 3rd inning. Back he comes in the dirt, so he goes 3-2. For Clayton, his last 4 starts, a reasonable number of pitches, 103, 93, 100. Most pitches in a game this year, 115. That was against San Diego. 3-2 pitch on the way. Fastball lined right over the head of Kershaw and into center field for the base hit. So Gregorius, a leadoff single. And that will bring up Wade Miley. But Clayton just did get out of the way of that thing. Good for him that he did. So that's hit number 1. And the batter, Wade Miley. Gibson doesn't try to get a whole bunch in a hurry, so it wouldn't be any surprise at all if they have Miley bunt. Miley, a good bunter. And around the bunt, sure enough, gets it down to Kershaw, who looks at second and goes to first. That would be the 9th sacrifice for Wade Miley. He could open up a school. How to bunt. And he made it look easy. So 1 out in the 3rd. Dodgers leading Arizona 3-0. Dodgers have beaten Arizona 11 times, 11 out of 15. And they've beaten them 7 out of 9 when Arizona was the home team. Remember, they were the home team in Sydney, Australia. And the Dodgers will have them over at Dodger Stadium the following weekend after the trip to San Diego. Kershaw out of a stretch. Inciarte, left-hand hitter and a pretty good-looking young ball player, fouls the pitch away upstairs off third. 0-1. His first name is Ender, but this is the beginning for Ender Inciarte. He's from Maracaibo in Venezuela. Signed by the Diamondbacks as a free agent about 6 years ago. And you look at his record and you see he has stolen 43 and 29, so you know he can run. Strike 1 pitch on the way to Ender. Kershaw back, and that's fouled away again. And the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Inciarte has been now in 89 games. Doesn't have much power. 3 home runs, 20 RBIs, but he has stolen 11, make it 12 out of 14 he stole tonight. Gregorius at second with 1 out. 3-0 Dodgers, bottom of the 3rd. Kershaw, another big stretch and a look back at second. Strike 2 pitch, slow curveball, and it was a hanger, whacked into left field, base hit. They're going to hold Gregorius on the throw to the plate. So you could have hung your hat on that curveball, and it was a setup. It looked like it was on a golf tee, and Inciarte promptly slapped it into left field. So first and third with 1 out, and the batter is Cliff Pennington. And of course, more pressure with Inciarte, who stole second in the first inning. Pennington struck out in the first inning, hitting .270. So Pennington, the right-hand batter, checks in. Runners at the corners for Arizona. Dodgers lead 3-0. Kershaw's fastball inside, bluff bunt by Pennington. 1 ball and no strikes. When Pennington was in high school, he was 3rd team All-American. Then he became 1st team All-State and 1st team All-District. So he's played well going all the way back to the high school days. 1 ball and no strikes to Cliff. Kershaw's 1-0 pitch, and that's a fastball low, ball 2 to Endo. As we always do with a runner at third, we check. Clayton Kershaw does have 6 wild pitches. 2-0 to Pennington. and the veteran second baseman Aaron Hill on deck. Kershaw set, checks the runners at the corners, and the 2-0 pitch on the way, swung on, fouled off to the left, and the count 2-1. So Inciarte with a base hit is at first. Gregorius, who singled, is now at third with one out. Pennington the batter, and on deck Aaron Hill. Kershaw struck out 2 in the first inning and is looking for a strikeout now. 2 balls and 1 strike. Clayton ready. Another check of the runners. The 2-1 pitch is low. Fake bunt again by Pennington. That had Turner on the move. Clayton has made 42 pitches right now. Trying to get the ball on the ground, but he missed it low and off the plate. So he has a 3-1 count. Dodgers 3, D-backs nothing. D-backs making some noise here. And the 3-1 pitch to Cliff Pennington. Kershaw deals, and he is low, and that loads the bases. For Clayton, that would be his second walk. So Aaron Hill coming up. Hill 2 for 8 with the bases loaded this year. He has 1 slam in his career and usually hits pretty well. A .330 batting average under these circumstances. Gregorius at third, Inciarte at second, Pennington the tying run at first. Dodger lead 3-0, but it's a wee bit shaky here with 1 out. Kershaw out of a stretch. Standing room only on the infield, and there's a looper that's going to go right to D. Gordon. Even though it wasn't hit high in the air, it was called infield fly by Phil Cuzzy. So Aaron Hill, a little bloop fly ball to D. Gordon. Runners have to hold, and now the batter is Mark Trumbo. Now you have a big man up there at the plate. Trumbo with enough power to get you 4 in a hurry. He has 8 home runs, 38 runs batted in, and with the bases loaded, he has 1 career slam. This year 0 for 4. So 2 out. Kershaw ready, and the left-hander deals. Fastball inside, ball 1. Clayton hits 94 on the gun. So Gregorius at third, Inciarte at second, Pennington at first. 2 out. Third inning, 3-0 Dodgers. Kershaw again out of a stretch. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Trumbo takes low, ball 2. You get the feeling even in the beginning. Remember, he walked Inciarte to open up the ball game. He's fighting it a little bit as far as his control is concerned. Rick Honeycutt not showing any anxious looks, but at the same time making some notes. Clayton looks to Ellis, gets the sign. The 2-0 pitch coming up to Mark Trumbo. Kershaw deals, fastball foul back, and the count 2-1. Mark Trumbo with a lot of power. Hit as many as 36 home runs in the minors and hit 34 for the Angels one year. 2-1 to Mark. At least he gives Kershaw a big strike zone. He's 6'4". Clayton ready, looks, and the 2-1 pitch is swung on, a high fly ball but playable. Scott Van Slyke puts it away, and Kershaw's out of the jam. No runs, 2 hits, 3 left, and at the end of 3, Dodgers 3, Arizona nothing. 6th inning. Be sure to join us on the next episode of Backstage Dodgers. We've got a day in the life of the bullpen catchers and follow the Dodgers in their series with the Padres. So don't miss this new episode of Backstage Dodgers Thursday at 7 right here on Sportsnet LA. Clayton Kershaw, you might find this staggering. We did. But in doing some research on Clayton Kershaw, that is the first time this year he had to pitch with the bases loaded. Believe it or not. He got out of it on the fly ball by Mark Trumbo. First time. In the fourth, 3-0 Dodgers, A.J. Ellis. Strike, 0-1. Ellis, Rojas, and then Clayton. Kershaw, by the way, made 20 pitches, so he's made 48. Miley has made 59. Another strike, 0-2. If you weren't with us, the Dodgers scored 3 times in the third. Gordon bunted for a base hit and stole second. Puig walked. Kemp doubled both men home, and he was cut down at third. And then Van Slyke hit a monstrously high home run, and the Dodgers had 3. It wasn't that Van Slyke's ball went that far. It was in the neighborhood of 376 where the wall is, and it went back in a couple of rows. But it was hit so high you couldn't believe it would carry that far. Who were some of the highest type home runs hitting that I've seen? I would put Ralph Kiner first, and maybe Dick Allen. Those two in the National League anyway. They hit home runs that were so high. 1 ball and 2 strikes to A.J. Ellis. Foul ball. In all honesty, when Ralph Kiner played in Pittsburgh at Forbes Field, and in those prehistoric days, they would clear out the blast furnaces around the 5th inning, and the whole city would be full of smoke, and we'd be in the upper deck looking at the game through the smoke, and Kiner's home runs would come up to where we were and then go out. Still 1-2. Ellis just did get a little bit of that express going by. He's busy talking to Gosowicz and or the plate umpire. One and 2. 2-2. Ellis single to left field in the 2nd inning. And ground ball, same spot. Only this time it didn't look like a bowling alley because the ball was hit so hard. Neither Pennington nor Gregorius moved. The earlier at bat, they both went head first after the ball, but not this time. Though A.J. sharp single to left, 2 for 2 against Miley, and the batter will be Miguel Rojas. Rojas hit into a force play in the 2nd inning. Miley has had at least 1 man on base in every inning now. Fastball missed. Miley has had some trouble, been wild early in the game. For instance, in the 1st inning, when he walked Puig, he's given up 16 1st inning walks. So he comes out of the bullpen and he's fighting it. And remember, Van Slyke hit that home run on the first pitch. That's another thing. Miley has really been burned on the first pitch. 8 times home runs have been hit on the first pitch. Ocho. Right. 2-1. So Van Slyke, who was robbed of a base hit by Aaron Hill, is 1 for 2, working on his nails. throw to first, although A.J. was about 3 feet off the bag. Hit and run count with Kershaw on deck. Miley comes in with a record of 7-9, but what really bugs him, Arizona has lost 15 times in games where he has started. They're going to get one, and this time they do get two. So Rojas just did outrun a double play for a force in the second. This time he hits into the double play. So 2 down here in the 4th inning. And the batter Clayton Kershaw, who grounded out to Jordan Pacheco in the 2nd inning. And a strike. 0-1. And strike 2. Miley's got a lot of problems, and his home earned run average this year is over 6. 3 strikes, see you later. But Kershaw looks, down he goes. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. And at the end of 3.5 innings, 3-0 Dodgers. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import, and by Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Spicy Chicken Club combo at Jack in the Box with fries and a drink while it lasts. Dodgers leading 3-0, bottom of the 4th inning. It'll be Alfredo Marte, Jordan Pacheco, and Tuffy Gosowicz. Clayton Kershaw has allowed 2 base hits, and they came in the 3rd inning from Gregorius and Inciarte, and he has also walked 2. So here's Marte. He fouled out to first baseman Justin Turner. He's been on base safely in 12 of his last 13 games. Called up from Reno. And the strike, 0-1. Alfredo's only 25 years old, from Santo Domingo. No balls, 1 strike. 1-1. Marte playing regularly. Most scouts think he would be a 4th or 5th outfielder. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hard ground ball by the diving Rojas down the line. Marte on his way for an easy double. And Van Slyke gets the ball back in. So Marte leads off the fourth with a shot inside third. The Kershaw, for the first time this year, had the bases loaded against him in the third inning. He got out of it on a fly ball by Crumbo, and now he's immediately got a runner at second base and nobody out. Bottom of the fourth inning, 3-0 Dodgers. Jordan Pacheco. Marte taking his lead. Pacheco listed pretty much as a contact hitter. And ball one, which brings up the point. We're in the fourth inning. Kershaw has 2 strikeouts, and they both came in the first inning. And he promptly hits one that should drop. Puig makes a diving try. It's recovered by Van Slyke. Going into second base since it's unoccupied, and scoring is Marte. And out in the outfield, Scott Van Slyke slowly getting up. He hurt himself. Timeout. So the fly ball was going to drop. Van Slyke tried to get there, couldn't do it. And Puig telling him to stay down a minute till we figure out what's wrong. It is 3-1 Dodgers. Big turf torn up. And let's check. Van Slyke again gets back down. Not quite sure what he did. Maybe the right ankle. Take a look. There's Puig. He can't make the play. And now here comes Van Slyke turning around. And you can see his right foot slip. It must be a little damp out there. Then the right foot turned again. And that's what it is. He turned his right ankle. That really had to hurt. Watch again. It's the right ankle right there. And on his knees and in pain, he tried to get the ball back in. So on a pop fly into center field, Pacheco winds up with a double. Marte scores, and the Diamondbacks are on the board. They're going to rule it as single and an error. An error because Van Slyke was in such pain, his throw went nowhere toward second base. Boy, that's a tough call. But then again, he did throw the ball. So make it a single for Pacheco. The error charge to Van Slyke. Stan Conti, Don Mattingly want to make sure that he's okay. And I'm not sure if he is. He turned that right ankle something fierce right there just before he picked up the ball. And the best he could do in pain was just flip the ball towards the infield. So a tough break for the Dodgers, especially the way he handles Wade Miley. But he can't be running all over left field with a bad ankle. So Carl Crawford getting ready to pick up for him in left field. So Van Slyke, robbed of a hit, then hits a home run. He has a 7-game hitting streak, but he turns his ankle trying to recover on that blooper to center, and he'll have to leave in favor of Crawford. So Kershaw gives up the double, the single, and the error. Hard error. Dodgers 3 runs, 5 hits, 1 error, and the D-backs 1 run, 4 hits. They have left 4. Pacheco at second base, and Tuffy Gosowicz, the catcher, coming up, and then Didi Gregorius. Tuffy grounded to short in the second inning, batting .234 with a left-hander on the mound, Kershaw. Miguel Montero takes the night off, and Tuffy is playing. Nobody out here. 3-1 Dodgers, bottom of the fourth. Any report on Scotty will pass it along. Pretty obvious, though, that he turned that right ankle. 0-1 to count to Tuffy Gosowicz. Born in nearby Scottsdale, still lives there. Went to school at Arizona State. 0-1. Tuffy talking about as a youngster worked at his parents' t-shirt printing shop. He said, I'd work there folding shirts, packing up. The pay was not good. He helped Arizona State get to the World Series. That was back in 2005. Foul ball, 1-2. Gosowicz, 31 years old, just had a birthday on the 17th. Trying to pick up Jordan Pacheco from second base. Nobody out. Dodgers lead 3-1. Check swing, did he? Yes, he did. So for Tuffy, tried to hold up. Slider got him. Down he goes. 1 out. For Kershaw, that would be his 3rd strikeout. Miley has 5. And the batter, Didi Gregorius, single to center in the 3rd inning. Didi, like Kenley Jansen, a kid from Curacao. Gregorius, 6'1". He played a lot of basketball, and he's also a pretty good swimmer. And ball 1. Curacao is like a set out of a Disney movie. I've been there once. And all the buildings are pastel colors. Pinks and yellows and blues. It is just gorgeous. 1 ball, no strikes. Fastball, high fly ball to right center. Kemp and Puig. And it will be Kemp who's going to get off a throw, but can lob it in because Pacheco had no thought of running. Puig, I'm sure, said something to Kemp about that fly ball should have been mine, because Kemp wound up with a big grin after making the catch. 2 down, and Wade Miley coming up, sacrificed in the 3rd inning. Miley has 7 hits, 1 RBI. Makes contact and a strike. 0-1. So like Kershaw, he's dangerous. He does not strike out very much. Clayton has made 60 pitches now, and he's in the 4th inning. Punched on the ground, foul. 0-2. Dodgers will leave after the game, go to San Diego, rest tomorrow, and then open up with the Padres Friday night. Dodgers have won 4 out of 6 in San Diego, 5 out of 7 at Dodger Stadium, so they've won 9 of the 13 from San Diego. In the dirt, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Pacheco at second with 2 out, 1 run in, and the Dodgers lead 3-1. We're in the bottom of the 4th. One ball and 2 strikes. And slap foul down the line. Miley hangs in there pretty well against Kershaw. We saw him bunt so easily, 9 sacrifices. Strikes out about 25% of the time. 1-2. And a comebacker. So Kershaw will get him. They will leave Pacheco, but they do get a run. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 error, 1 left, and at the end of 4, 3-1 Dodgers. Fifth inning. Be one of the first 50,000 fans at Dodger Stadium Tuesday at 7:10. Receive a Magic Johnson no-look pass bobblehead. Compliments of Coca-Cola. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/bobblehead. Dodgers and the D-backs, 3-1 Dodgers in the 5th inning. Dodgers beat Miley by that score in Sydney, Australia. It seems like years ago. It was just the end of March. Sometimes you say to yourself, were we really there? Did we go to Sydney, Australia? 5th inning. It'll be Gordon, Puig, and Kemp. Remember, Carl Crawford now in left field for Van Slyke. If we get a report on Scotty, we'll pass it along. Obviously, he twisted that right ankle. Gordon struck out, bunted for a base hit, stole a base, scored a run, and hits one right to Aaron Hill. Professor Hill takes care of that, 1 away. For Miley, he has gotten the leadoff man for the first time in the last couple of innings. Remember, Gordon bunted for a base hit in the 3rd. L single opening up the 4th. He might have had the leadoff man get aboard in the 2nd, except Aaron Hill made a great diving stop with the ball hit by Van Slyke. So here's Yasiel Puig. He's walked twice tonight. He walked twice last night. Right. No balls, 1 strike. Puig, 13 home runs. Lays off that off-speed pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike. '59 RBIs for Yasiel. We can also tell you the Rockies-Giants game is moving along. 4th inning, no score. And a hopper to short, backhanded by Gregorius to get him. 2 down in the 5th inning. In that Rockies-Giants game, Tim Hudson in 3 innings, no hits, has struck out 4. Giants left 2 runners at 2nd and 3rd. So they move to the 4th. So here's Matt Kemp, struck out in the first inning, doubled to right center to drive in 2. He was nailed trying to go for a triple. Hits home plate, bounces away. 1 ball and no strikes. Three runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 4 hits for the D-backs. Fastball in there. Although it says 82, so he must have taken a lot off it from where we were. 1 ball and 1 strike. Of course, that's the key to the off-speed pitch. You deliver it the same way as the fastball. 1-2 the count to Matt Kemp. Wade Miley, he came in with 157 strikeouts, has struck out 5. So he now has 162. 1-2 to Matt. 2-2. Wade Miley in his career, when he gave up the home run to Van Slyke, he's allowed 13 home runs to the Dodgers, but he also strikes out Matt Kemp a second time. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Wade Miley. First time that's happened for him. And at the end of 4.5 innings, 3-1 Dodgers. They're leading 3-1, bottom of the 5th inning. We get a report on Scott Van Slyke. It was what it appeared to be, a mild right ankle sprain. I do like the use of the word mild. That's what they call it. And they refer to Scotty as day to day. It'll depend on whether the ankle swells up on him or not. You'll also have from tonight and all day tomorrow and all day Friday before putting back on the uniform. Meanwhile, Ender Inciarte, he has walked, he has singled, he has stolen a base. He's been impressive in the 2 games. He also picked up his 10th assist, nailing Matt Kemp trying to go to third, and pulls one down the right field line in the corner. And Inciarte can fly. Kemp picks it up, and Inciarte is on his way to third, and he's in there with a triple. So Ender Inciarte has been very impressive throughout the 2 games, and probably bangs this into the right field corner. Matt Kemp had to come over to get it, and the ball went right by him. By the time he picked it up, Inciarte, who runs so well, stole his 12th base earlier, steams into third. So a runner at third. Dodger corners come up. Pennington, the batter, takes a strike. Oh, and 1 to count. That's going foul. 0-2. Pennington struck out in the first inning, walked in the third. When he walked in the third inning, that loaded the bases, but then Hill popped up. For the Diamondbacks, they've only been retired in order once. That was the second inning. So they've had men on base. 0-2. One and two. As we mentioned earlier, with a runner at third, we always look it up. Kershaw has 6 wild pitches. One and two to Cliff Pennington, the third baseman. Going after a bad ball, it squirts away from AJ. So for Pennington, he strikes out a second time, and the batter now will be Aaron Hill. Take another look at that pitch that fooled Pennington. Breaking ball that hit the front of home plate. You can ask Tommy Lasorda when he was a kid pitcher. Branch Rickey used to tell him, when you're going to throw your curveball, especially if you have the count that way, try to hit home plate. So here's Hill, fly to left, popped up. 1 out in the fifth, 3-1 Dodgers. A lot of pressure on Ellis, of course, to handle that kind of a pitch with a runner at third. AJ using every part of his anatomy to keep the ball around the plate. Cincinnati listening to Glenn Sherlock as he comes down the line. 1 ball and no strikes. Check swing. It's going to cost a strike. 1-1 to Aaron Hill. Originally a first-round pick by the Blue Jays. Went to LSU. Been with the Diamondbacks since 2011. He's got a lot of pop. 2 years ago, Aaron had 26 home runs in the dirt. 2 balls and 1 strike. Kershaw certainly not quite as sharp as we have seen him in the past. Appears more like a struggle for him here. Some nights he just absolutely dominates. Tonight he has struck out 4. He's given up 5 hits and just 1 run. Diamondbacks have left 5. And that's popped in the air. Gone out is Hanley Ramirez. Nowhere really for Inciarte to go. So 2 down as Hill pops it up. And the batter will be Mark Trumbo. Trumbo struck out, fly to left, 0 for 2. Fastball but low. 1 ball and no strikes. Kershaw 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. Men on in every inning but the second, and trying to keep Inciarte right there at third. 1 ball and no strikes. One and 1. Trumbo had the rare experience this year, certainly, of coming up for the first time this season where Kershaw had the bases loaded. and Trumbo flied to left to end the inning. 1-1. Foul ball, no play. 1-2 to count to Mark. Trumbo 6'4", 230, 28 years old. Last 2 years he had a second half slump. This year he fractured his foot, so he hadn't played that much at all. 1-2. Inciardi down the line. 2-2. Has to be a little bit of an uneasy feeling if you're a left-hander in a tough game with a guy at third who can run, and you have to turn your back on him, and you have a big right-hand batter. I mean, if a guy's going to steal, not that he's going to try, but this is what you like. 2-2. Breaking ball got him. The off-speed curveball. Trumbo strikes out. The Diamondbacks are 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Kershaw has struck out 5, and the Dodgers still lead 3-1. '88, the Dodgers beat Philadelphia at Veterans Stadium 4-2. That was the 1,000th career victory for manager Tommy Lasorda. The young man from Norristown went on to win 1,599. Marked down from 1,600, I guess. Let's go back to this one. Three to 1 Dodgers. 6th inning, a drive to right center. Here comes Inciarte and kicks it off. Boy, he's had a wonderful 2 games against the Dodgers for sure. So 1 away, and the batter now will be Carl Crawford, finishing up for Scott Van Slyke, who suffered, according to the report, a mild right ankle sprain. Crawford's been red hot, hitting better than .450 for over 2 weeks. No balls and 1 strike. One and one. Dodgers did all their scoring in the 3rd inning against Miley. Gordon bunted for a base hit and stole second. Puig walked. Kemp doubled in 2, and that's going to be slapped into left field for Crawford. For Carl, line drive single to left to continue his solid hitting, and that'll bring up Justin Turner. For the Dodgers, their 6th hit. I was wondering about the impact Clayton Kershaw might have here in Arizona. Last night, 21,758. Tonight, 28,394. About 7,000 more obviously coming to see Kershaw. Crawford, a terror on the base paths. He has stolen 20 and been caught only 4. And we saw Gordon steal second base in the 3rd inning. 3 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 5 hits for the D-backs. The D-backs have stranded 6, and they are 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The Kershaw's had to really battle through 5 innings. Inciarte out there in center field has walked, singled, stolen a base, and tripled, and picked up his 10th assist. Otherwise, he hadn't done anything. One ball and no strikes to Justin Turner. A.J. Ellis on deck. Two balls and no strikes. Turner has walked, struck out. That's on the corner, 2-1. Well, you have speed at first base. You have pretty much of a contact hitter with Turner at the plate. And then you have A.J. Ellis on deck. So let's see if Mattingly is thinking hit and run. This is the manager's count. It'll also be the 90th pitch for Wade Miley. In the dirt. Nice save by Pacheco. So Miley is thinking certainly hit and run. Three runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 5 hits for the D-backs. Crawford staring across the diamond. Lorenzo Bundy not going on ball 3. So they weren't playing hit and run. Now let's see if they play run and hit. Obviously, Turner not obligated to swing on ball 4. Some Dodger fans begin cheering, "Let's go Dodgers." That wakes up the crowd. That's going to go foul way off to the right, out of play, and the count 3-2. Well, the Giants left 4 in the first couple of innings, but they finally get on the scoreboard. Gregor Blanco got an RBI on a squeeze bunt single. So the Giants lead 1-0, bottom of the 4th inning. 3-2, 1 out. So let's see if they run Crawford. Carl takes a cautious lead and goes on a line drive base hit to left field. Stopping at second is Crawford. Pennington a head first dive, and as he was hitting the ground, Gregorius was racing to cover third. So Turner bangs one into left field. He goes 1 for 2 with a walk. 2 on, 1 out, and A.J. Ellis, the batter, 7 hits for the Dodgers while leading 3-1. A.J. twice has single to left field. So 2 on, 1 out. Ellis followed by Rojas. Miley has made 92 pitches. Pickoff play at second, very close, just did get back. Phil Cuzzy right there to call it. That was close. Crawford, a little late in reacting, just did get his hand there. The tag was on the elbow. Oliver Perez, the left-hander, gets up in the D-back bullpen. AJ takes off the plate. The Dodgers, against left-hand starters, they are 8-8 at home. But as usual, they are perplexing because on the road against left-handers, they're 13-3. And 2-0. Waiting on deck, Miguel Rojas. Miley ready to make pitch number 95. Crawford at second, Turner at first, in there, 2-1. Now let's see. I mean, with A.J. Ellis, pretty much of a contact hitter. Crawford and Turner. Weak hitting Miguel Rojas on deck. Well, let's see. Runners go. Sure enough, the pitch is low. The throw is there, waiting for Crawford. No doubt about it. Well, you knew on a 2-1 count they might be playing hit and run. I think maybe, well, I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't hit and run. Maybe Crawford was just trying to steal third, but he was nailed easily. I thought it would sure be hit and run, but Ellis took the pitch, and Crawford naked unto the world. 2-5. Turner staying at first, and now a 3-1 count to A.J. Ellis. And ball 4. So that was a big pitch, that 2-1 pitch that A.J. took. So instead of having the bases loaded and 1 out, they have runner at first and second and 2 out, and Rojas coming up. Miguel hit into a force play and hit into a double play. Big Mike Harkey going out to try and counsel Miley. Rojas trying to stay above the 200 mark. Miguel, an absolute wizard with the glove. Of course, ever since he came to the Dodgers, the question always was, would he be able to hit enough to stay in the big leagues? It has been a struggle, but here he is. Two on, 2 out. Dodgers leading 3-1. Seems like Arizona threatens every inning. And that's ball 1. Rojas, who can play short and third. You may remember he actually played an inning in left field Sunday against the Mets. And that pops out of the middle, Gosowicz, but nowhere for the runners to advance. Gosowicz might have been crossed up on that pitch. No, he just made a bad catch. 1 ball and 1 strike. Wade Miley now ready to make pitch number 100. He's had 2 innings where he had to make 21 pitches. So that's eaten into his game. Turner at second, Ellis at first, 2 out. 6th inning. Ground ball to short, a quick feed for the force, and that's out. So the big play, 2 balls, 1 strike. They ran Crawford, and he was nailed. So no runs, 2 hits, and a walk. And at the end of 5.5, it's still 3-1 Dodgers. MLB teams and 2014 players. Get the retro 2-button style baseball game you've been missing. Visit RBIGame.com for more details and download today on your console and mobile device. Tough ball game. Clayton Kershaw in his last 2 games at Chase Field. The first was the worst of his career, and tonight's not exactly been a walk in the park either. The only time he retired the side in order was back in the 2nd inning. He's had to pitch out of the stretch most of the night. He has allowed 5 hits, just 1 run. He has struck out 5, walked 2, and just 1 run. And as we mentioned earlier, in the 3rd inning for the first time this year, the opposition had the bases loaded against Kershaw, but they failed to score. Big swing by Marte. He fouled out and doubled. Cody Dickerson hit a home run for the Rockies. That ties it up. It's a 1-1 tie, top of the 5th inning at AT&T Park. Big slow curveball at 73, foul back. 0-2. He hasn't gotten maybe 1 strikeout of his 5, setting him up and then coming with that slow curveball. When he does that, that's when he picks up the double figures in strikeouts. Fastball, gotcha. So Marte caught looking, down he goes. 6 strikeouts now for Clayton, and 3 of the last 4 batters. We got Pennington in the 5th and Trumbo in the 5th, and now he punches out Alfredo Marte. So Jordan Pacheco popped up, singled. He hit that little fly ball to shallow center. Puig reacted a little late. Then a head-first dive, couldn't catch it. The ball squirted away. Scott Van Slyke raced over to pick it up, tried to get it back to the infield, and twisted his right ankle and went down in a heap. Adding insult to injury, they also charged Van Slyke an error. He kind of threw the ball in the direction of the infield, but he was in terrific pain, and Pacheco went into second, and Carl Crawford had to pick up for him, and Crawford is 1 for 1 in his stead. Fastball, and he was late, fouled it down the line. 2-1 to Jordan Pacheco. Kershaw has always had his problems here at Chase Field, one of the tougher places for him to pitch, like Coors Field in Denver. Fastball fouled away. Still throwing nice and easy, 93. And lifted to Puig in right center. 2 hands, 2 down. And the batter will be Tuffy Gosowicz, the catcher. Tuffy got a start tonight because he had been 3 for 4 against Kershaw in the past. Tonight he's grounded to short and struck out. And ball 1. Gosowicz's first name is James, but his dad nicknamed him Tuffy because he was a particularly destructive infant. He used to break his crib, fall out, and no matter, every time he fell out, it didn't bother him. Maybe the line drive right at Rojas might bother him, but Tuffy is done in the 6th, and an easy inning for Kershaw, which he needed. And at the end of 6, it's still 3-1 Dodgers. What's ahead? Well, an airplane trip tonight and then on to San Diego Friday and Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. Dodgers then will go home and go head-to-head with the Washington Nationals. And the Nationals, a solid ball club. They've been leading the Eastern Division, and they are 7.5 games in front of Atlanta. So they will pose quite a problem. It should be a great series. After Washington, Dodgers will see Arizona again for the final 3, and then San Diego. So the Dodgers play 6 games with the Padres in the next 2 weekends. Oliver Perez out of Culiacan in Mexico, 6'3", 210. Oliver is 33 years old, originally signed with the Padres, and grew up admiring Fernando Valenzuela on TV. He's the youngest of 5 children. His parents are both educators, and we'll see how he goes in relief of Wade Miley. Oliver Perez, with a record of 3-3 in his 57th game, an ERA just under 2, and he'll start with Clayton. Then Gordon and Puig. Kind of snakes the pitch off the plate, ball 1. Perez is due to bat second in the 7th inning, so it figures they will hit for him. Right-hander Evan Marshall is throwing in the bullpen. Fouled away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kershaw has grounded out and struck out. 0 for 2. 3 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. Scored all 3 runs in the 3rd inning. 1 run, 5 hits for the Diamondbacks. Big side-on breaking ball, 1 and 2. Perez is 6'3", and when he drops that arm, he really does sneak that thing around the corner. And he'll get another left-hand hitter with Gordon. Just off the plate, check swing. Will Little, the third base umpire. 2-2 to Clayton. To repeat, bottom of the 5th inning, Rockies Giants 1-1. Fastball away. 3-2 the count. Besides Fernando Valenzuela, Perez's favorite was Randy Johnson. That's going to go foul down the line, back into the crowd. Over 28,000 here tonight. Oliver, originally signed by the Padres. He went from the Padres to the Pirates to the Mets, and eventually to the Mariners, and now the Diamondbacks. And don't you know, he walks Kershaw. There's Fernando working with Jaime and Pepe. So many young Mexican players talk about how they idolize Fernando. He gave them hope. He gave them direction. An inspiration indeed, as well as a very nice guy. On the ball club, he was never Fernando. He was always Freddie. Here's Gordon, struck out, bunted for a base hit, stole a base and scored a run, and grounded out. And pops it up. It will be Aaron Hill. Though just like that, Gordon pops it up, Kershaw holds. And the batter will be Yasiel Puig. Puig has walked twice, scored a run, grounded to short. Yasiel fighting to stay above 300. 13 home runs, 59 runs batted in. With the ground out, he is 0 for 16 with about 5 walks during that same stretch. And Bryant pops that thing high. Maybe foul. I mean, back into the stands. And it sure is. No balls, 1 strike. Oliver Perez facing Yasiel Puig. Oliver's from Culiacan. They tell me that's a northern Sinaloa city of about 800,000 and maybe 800 miles from San Diego. So when he got to the Padres, he was big news. Hot topic in Tijuana. 0-1. Fastball. What a hopper that is. Got him. Nice play by third baseman Cliff Pennington. So Yasiel grounds out. Moving to second base on the play, Kershaw. And Matt Kemp coming up. Kemp had a big at-bat back in the 3rd inning. 2 on, nobody out, and he probably hit one in the gap. It'll roll all the way to the 413-foot sign. Gordon telling Puig to hurry, which he did, and then Kemp is cut down at 3rd on a fine play from Inciarte to Hill and on to Pennington. And with Matt coming up, that'll do it for Oliver. He has gotten his 2 men. Now they'll bring in Evan Marshall to face Matt Kemp, and we'll be right back. To face Matt Kemp, Dodgers have Kershaw out there at second base and 2 out. Matt Kemp 1 for 3. That was that key double to drive in 2. That's the difference in the game. Evan Marshall from Mountain View and lives up in Sunnyvale. That's the home of Troy Tulowitzki. He was a Diamondbacks 4th round pick, and he went to school at Kansas State, majored in business administration and planned on going into sports management after graduation, but here he is pitching in the big leagues. Big enough, 6'2" and 220. Fastball, slider, curveball, and change. Fastball, ball 1, 1-0. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the department called holes, but he has 17 holes, which is the guy before the fellow who gets the save. 1 ball and no strike, and as a rookie he has the most holes. Check swing, no swing, says Greg Gibson. 2 balls and no strikes to Matt Kemp. Kershaw at second, 7th inning, 3-1 Dodgers. Been that way since the 4th inning. On deck, Hanley Ramirez. Matt batting .277. That's off the play, ball 3. 16 home runs, 63 runs batted in for Matt. 3-0 with Kershaw at second. They might green light him. He's been doing very well of late. And way off the plate, no chance. So Kemp draws the walk. Kershaw at second, Kemp at first. Hanley Ramirez rounded to third, struck out, and fly to center. Interesting, this is a tough ball game, and we're in the 7th inning. You wonder about Rojas. Would he take over at shortstop? Turner would move to third, but who would play first? Can't be Van Slyke. He sprained an ankle, and I don't think Adrian Gonzalez with the sore ankle. So Andre Ethier has taken some ground balls, but which part of the defense would you give on? Well, we'll see. That's going through Don Mattingly's mind right about now, I'm sure. Hanley for 3, hitting .271. One and one. So there's Andre Ethier. May or may not get in the game. Three runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. They've left 5. 1 run, 5 hits for the D-backs. They've left 6. Big ground foul. 1-2. And another foul ball. So still 1-2 to Hanley. Ramirez last night had 1 hit, went 1 for 4. Carl Crawford on deck. So Wade Miley went 6. Oliver Perez got 2 outs. And Evan Marshall has given up a walk to Kemp. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Evan 6'2", 220. Fastball at 95. He's throwing hard. As usual, he's got the 2-seamer that sinks. The 4-seamer, that's the so-called power pitch up. Then the curveball is a spike curve. Then the change. 1-2. Got him. Hanley Ramirez walks away, leaving 2. We're heading to the bottom of the 7th inning, and the Dodgers clinging to a 3-1 lead. Bottom of the 7th inning with the Dodgers holding on to a 3-1 lead. Tough night for Clayton Kershaw. He really had to battle. In fact, he's retired the side in only 2 of the 6 innings, holding on to that 3-1 lead. And he's getting ready now to face Didi Gregorius, then a pinch hitter, and Inciarte. Brad Ziegler down in the bullpen getting ready to pitch the 8th inning for Arizona. Gregorius singled to center, got as far as third in the 3rd inning. That's when the D-backs left the bases loaded. Trumbo flied to left for the 3rd out. Hard to believe the stat, but it took a lot of research. That's the only time Kershaw has allowed the opposition to have the bases loaded this year. Somewhat startling. That's a strike. Didi has singled and flied to center. Kershaw now coming up to his 90th pitch. Oh, and 2 to Gregorius. And chases a bad ball. Ellis picks it up out of the dirt, throws him out. Nice pick at the other end by Justin Turner. So Gregorius strikes out. Suddenly now Kershaw has 7 strikeouts. He has struck out 4 of the last 7. Xavier Paul is now going to come up and bat for Marshall. Xavier Paul. Xavier Paul, you may remember, was originally Dodger property. They selected him in the 4th round way back in 2003 from Slidell, Louisiana. Foul backs 0-1. Paul committed to go to Tulane University, but the Dodgers talked him into signing with them, and he's had a long career. He was with the Dodgers in 09, 10, and 11. That's when he went to Pittsburgh, then to the Reds, and now here he is with the D-backs. 0-2. Paul's 5'9", 205-pounder. Off-speed breaking ball. That's that change curveball. Still 0-2. Xavier from Slidell, Louisiana, graduate of Slidell High School, which is in New Orleans, where he now makes his home. He also had a brother, Matt, who was in the Dodger organization. And down he goes. So Paul strikes out. 8 strikeouts now for Clayton Kershaw. He had only 3 for the first 4 innings. Now all of a sudden he had 2 strikeouts in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 2 here in the 7th, and he's quickly up to 8. And the batter, Inciarte, the impressive center fielder, he has walked, stolen a base, singled, and tripled. They left him at second and they left him at third. In fact, they've left him in scoring position all 3 times, which points up the fact the D-backs are 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, and Kershaw gets a strike. Inciarte had 2 base hits and 2 stolen bases last night. Young fella from Venezuela. No balls, 1 strike. And hit down the left field line, foul, back into the stands. The Diamondbacks had a very good player who was banged up, A.J. Pollock. He did a great job in center field for them. Now they have another good-looking player. Foul tipped and down he goes. So all of a sudden it's Clayton Kershaw. He strikes out the side to give him 9 and walks off at the end of 7, leading 3-1. 3-1 Dodgers. A reminder, be one of the first 40,000 fans at Dodger Stadium Saturday, September 6th, and you'll receive your own pair of Dodger headphones, compliments of Lexus. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. By the way, as we see Brad Ziegler, that's how he prefers to have it pronounced. For several years he's been Ziegler, but he said no, from now on I want it to be Ziegler, and we say great. Anyway, to conclude the thought, when Inciarte was at the plate, we were talking about A.J. Pollock, a very good center fielder. He was hitting .316. He had a half a dozen home runs, and Pollock was hit and suffered a fractured hand. So he's been out since June, and that gives Inciarte a chance to play. Crawford, ground ball to the right side, and Hill throws him out. One away. If you join us late, Carl Crawford did not start the game. Scott Van Slyke did. Van Slyke robbed of a hit by Hill in the second inning. Hit a home run against his favorite pitcher, Wade Miley, in the third, and then sprained an ankle when his foot gave out on the soft turf out there in left center, so Crawford took over for him. Here's that play, a pop fly that dropped in front of Puig, and then the right ankle came out from under down to his knees when Van Slyke. We're happy to say that Van Slyke walked off the field. He wasn't really limping, not that much, and the reporters, they use the word mild ankle sprain. Turner walked, struck out, singled. Dodgers have left 7. They did all their scoring in the third inning and then just gave the ball to Kershaw and said, make it stand up. Well, he's done so far. 2 more innings to go. So you see Oliver Perez sneak him in there left-handed. Now Ziegler does the same thing. Right hand. Turner 1 for 2 with a walk, and promptly bangs it into left center for a base hit. Inciarte over to get it. Justin will hold on and continues to swing that bat exceptionally well. 2 for 3 again tonight. So Turner's been on base 3 times. And the batter now, A.J. Ellis, who has been on base 3 times with 2 singles and a walk. Dodgers 3 runs, 8 hits. By the way, Turner standing at first. In the month of August, he has 23 hits, and Justin is batting .377 in August. Wow, what a story he is. And playing first base tonight. No balls and 1 strike. Ellis twice single, a left and walk. Each time ground ball in the hole. One and one. 28,394. About 7,000 more than last night. It would be a reasonable guess. The increase to see Kershaw and to see the battle with Wade Miley. 1 ball and 1 strike. Turner has stolen 5 out of 6. So if you turn your back on him, he's gone. 1 and 1. One ball and 1 strike. Time. Ellis, in fact, acted like he needed a sign. Bundy started to come out of the box, and AJ said, no, it's okay. On a 2-1 pitch, remember, he took it, and Crawford was nailed trying to steal third. That was back in the 6th inning. One ball and 2 strikes. Pretty good side-on sinker. Reds out of Pratt, Kansas. Veteran right-hand pitcher, went to Southwest Missouri State University. He'll be 35 in October. He was with the A's, and in his own words, he was just a very ordinary pitcher, and the A's said, why don't you change your angle of your arm and your delivery? Why don't you drop it down? Try sidearm, submarine. He's had a nice livelihood ever since. 4 years with the A's, 3 years with the Diamondbacks. Cracked bat, ground ball to Gregorius, who juggles, but they get the force play barely. So the juggle lost the double play. Turner is erased. And with 2 out, Miguel Rojas coming up. Rojas has had a tough night. Take another look at the juggle by Gregorius right there. So they lost the double play. And here comes Miguel. Rojas with 2 on in the 2nd inning, hit into a force play, almost a double play. So then in the 4th inning, he did hit into a double play. And in the 6th inning, another force play. And Rojas has dipped below the so-called Mendoza line. Miguel batting .198. He does have a home run, 8 runs batted in, and a magical glove. One and one. On deck, Clayton Kershaw. You might not have been old enough. You know, there was a time when the pitcher never went on deck. Never. They always had the leadoff man go on deck, and the pitcher could sit in the dugout and relax. And the rules committee said, wait a minute, why should they be allowed to relax? Well, that'll do it for Rojas. He goes 0 for 4. And we'll be heading to the bottom of the 8th inning. Kershaw had to stay in the on-deck circle. 3-1 Dodgers. They have come about. Justin Turner will move over to third base from first. Miguel Rojas will move from third base to short, and sore back or no, Adrian Gonzalez will take over at first base. The only other move we were contemplating earlier was the fact they might gamble with Andre Ethier, but Ethier has only played 2 games at first base, so that would be a risk. This way, if Gonzalez back will allow it, the Dodgers are in a better defensive frame as they lead 3-1 in the 8th inning. Meanwhile, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 hitters coming up for Arizona. That means Pennington, Hill, and Trumbo. Pennington struck out twice and walked, 0 for 2, hitting .268. Kershaw, suddenly now, all the pieces have fallen into place. He gave up that triple to Inciarte, and he's retired 9 in a row since. Ground ball to Gordon, and that makes it 10 in a row. So 1 out in the 8th. Clayton trying to become the first 16-game winner in the National League. Adam Wainwright tried and lost today. He's 15-9 when the Pirates beat the Cardinals 3-1. So Clayton ready to make his 100th pitch. Clayton has also struck out the side in the 7th. 0-1 to count to Hill. So he struck out 5 of the last 7 batters. Big chopper to third. Turner backs up for the hop. Guns it, a perfect throw. 2 down. So with 2 out in the 8th inning, Mark Trumbo, who had a huge chance. In fact, Trumbo has had a couple of big opportunities. With a runner at second in the first inning, he struck out. With the bases loaded in the 3rd and 2 out, he flied to left. And with a runner at 3rd and 2 out in the 5th, he struck out. So it's been a tough night for Trumbo, leaving men in scoring position each of his at-bats. Right. 0-1. 102 pitches now for Clayton, and in the bullpen, Kenley Jansen begins to warm up. No balls, 1 strike. And a 1-hopper into left field. You talk about hitting at the wrong time. Trumbo would have had a huge effect on the game each of the previous 3 at-bats. So a 2-out single will bring up Alfredo Marte. Kershaw has allowed 1 run, 6 hits, and now trying to get Marte, who was fouled out, doubled, and struck out. And ball 1. Marte hitting .212. Scored the run. He doubled, and then Pacheco dropped that fly ball single, and then Van Slyke twisted his ankle, and Marte came around and scored. Ball 2. Kershaw has walked 2. Trumbo at first with 2 out. Foul back. Still throwing 92 here in the 8th inning on 106 pitches. Down in the bullpen for the Diamondbacks, Addison Reed getting ready to pitch the 9th inning. Alfredo Marte from the Dominican. And at 93. So after 106 pitches, 107 is 93 miles an hour. Trumbo over there at first base has stolen 2, but he's been caught 3 times. You don't ever think of Mark as a base stealer, but Kershaw just tossed over there to make him aware he was aware of him. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Line foul. That's that breaking ball, the off-speed breaking ball. 108 pitches now. Kershaw is high in pitch count with 115 against San Diego in early July. Last 3 games, 100, 97, and 103. So here comes number 109. Breaking ball, the big slow curveball, and that takes care of Marte. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left, 10 strikeouts for Clayton, and at the end of 8, 3-1 Dodgers. For Clayton Kershaw, with the Dodgers leading 3-1. He strikes out 10. That means 6 times double-figure strikeouts this year. 27 times he's had double-figure strikeouts. He's had double-figure strikeouts in each of his last 3 starts. It's the first time that he's had that string, however, since 2011. So Clayton will give way to Andre Ethier after another incredible start. Looked like he was struggling the first couple of innings, and then from the 5th inning on, after the triple by Inciarte, he really took off. Ethier, a ground ball to Pacheco, 1 pitch and 1 away. So Ziegler gets the ground ball, 1 out. Now D. Gordon coming up. Struck out, bunted for a base hit, stole a base, scored a run in the 3rd. Since then, 0 for 2. So 1 for 4 for the night, hitting .293. Kershaw, in his last 3 games against Milwaukee on the 16th of August, he had 11 strikeouts. Against San Diego, he had 10, and he picks up 10 tonight. 0-2. Miley, Perez, Marshall, and Ziegler, and Kershaw to be relieved by Kenley Jansen. Kershaw beat Miley in Sydney, Australia, 3-1, and trying to do it again tonight. Ball 1. Should Jansen hold on to the lead, Kershaw then will become the first 16-game winner in the National League since that horrific 7-run game here Kershaw will be 9-0 on the road, having won 8 straight. Fouled away. We were talking at the very start of the game about Randy Johnson. He was blessed. You would hope that Clayton Kershaw would be blessed like that. I mean, Randy Johnson pitched for 22 years. 1-2. Change up. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Dodgers did all the scoring in the 3rd inning. They scored 3. Kershaw made that stand up for 8 innings. Little roller. Aaron Hill. 2 down. And that will bring up Yasiel Puig. Puig is 0 for 2 with 2 walks. Scored a run. By the way, if you were with us or if you were not, in the 4th inning, when Alfredo Marte doubled, Pacheco got that pop fly single in front of a diving Puig. And then, if you remember, Scotty Van Slyke twisted his ankle and could barely throw the ball back towards the infield and was charged with an error. That meant the run that scored was unearned, which means that Clayton Kershaw's unearned run average now is a breathtaking 1.7. On his way to winning his 16th. He is something. Wow. 0-1. And another strike. 0-2. I remember Mike Brito telling me last year when Puig first came up, he said, don't you argue with an umpire. And we haven't seen him do that. We've seen him disagree with the umpire, make a face, look up at the sky, roll his eyes, walk away. But we have not seen him jaw at a plate umpire. Good for him. And a high pop fly. It will be Gregorius. So Yasiel pops it up. He goes 0 for 3. Clayton Kershaw will head for the dressing room. And we're going to the bottom of the 9th. And Kenley Jansen coming in entrusted with a 3-1 lead. Bottom of the 9th inning, Kenley Jansen has reached the mound. The Dodgers have been leading with 3 runs in the 3rd inning all night, and now they come to the bottom of the 9th. Jordan Pacheco is due to lead it off. Tuffy Gosowich and then Didi Gregorius. David Peralta looks like he's going to be a pinch hitter along the way. So Jansen getting ready after a tremendous effort by Clayton Kershaw. He made 109 pitches. The run was unearned. And now he's given the ball to Kenley. David Peralta started last night's game in right field. Peralta had 2 singles and a walk and struck out twice, hitting .290, 7 home runs, 32 runs batted in. David's from Venezuela, from Carabobo, and the Dodgers certainly saw him play well last evening. Kenley Jansen did not pitch last night, so the Dodgers hope that he's rested. Ball 1. Last night the relievers were Howell, League, Wright, and Baez. So David Peralta, originally signed by the Cardinals back in 2004 as a pitcher. Right. Didn't do well enough as a pitcher. Tried it for 3 years. Then he was released. And he played in the Appalachian League, was released there. Decided no one ought to give up at 21. And here he is. And a little pop fly. Turner at the other end of it. So 1 out in the 9th. Dodgers are trying to make it 12 out of 16 against Arizona and beat them when Arizona's the home team 8 out of 10. Remember, 2 of them were in Sydney, Australia. Tuffy Gosowicz, James Gosowicz by any other name, grounded out, struck out, lined out. Right, 0-1. Giants got a run. Buster Posey knocked in an RBI in the 7th inning with a base hit. Giants 2, Rockies 1, bottom of the 7th. 1-1. Remember, the Giants started the year 22-9, turned right around at home and won 10-24. They won their 11th game and they're trying to win their 12th. Fouled away. The Giants have also lost a lot of tough games. They had lost 11 of the last 13 one-run games. So they're trying to come up with a 1-run victory tonight, leading 2-1 in the 7th. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fastball at 95, fouled away upstairs. 28,394 came out tonight. Remember, the Dodgers have 3 more games with Arizona in the next homestand. First, the 3 with Washington, then 3 with Arizona, then 3 with San Diego. And this weekend, the club will be in San Diego. Foul tipped, and down he goes. So Gosowicz strikes out a second time. Strikeout number 1 for Jansen, and the 11th D-back to strike out. Kershaw had 10. So that'll bring up Gregorius, who singled to center, flied to center, and struck out, hitting .217. 3-1 Dodgers, 2 out in the 9th inning. Dodgers trying to make it 6 out of 7 on the road of late. They're also, if they win tonight, the Dodgers will have won 9 straight road series against Western Division teams. Well, they have knocked the Western Division lopsided. They will be 36-19 if they can get the last out now. 0-1. Kind of overthrowing a little bit, Kenley. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jake Lamb comes out on deck. He would be a pinch hitter if Gregorius can get aboard. 1 ball, 1 strike. One and 2. Kenley Jansen. Matt Kemp with that big home run. Actually, Kemp had the double. Van Slyke had the home run. 1 and 2 to count. Got him. So Kenley Jansen comes in, strikes out 2. That means 12 D-backs struck out. Matt Kemp doubled in 2. Scott Van Slyke homered for Jansen. Not only his 12th, but 100 career saves now, as Kenley makes 12 pitches, strikes out 2. Time of game 2 hours and 55 minutes for the Dodgers. 3 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. And 1 run, 6 hits, and no errors for the D-backs. The player of the game, of course, would have to be Clayton Kershaw. 8 innings, an unearned run. He allowed 6 hits, walked a couple, struck out 10. He had to fight his way the first 4 innings. He was in a lot of trouble. But after the 4th inning, he allowed only 2 hits. And that's when he really started to pick up 7 more strikeouts. So he becomes the first 16-game winner in the National League, and that ought to tie a ribbon on the package for the night. We'll talk to you Friday night from San Diego. Until then, wish we all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.